Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Between Two Simulators with me, Jake Rahman. As you can see, we've got our simulators here and we're joined today by Isaac Franklin, innovator, inventor, founder of Reproductions. Thanks for being with us, Isaac.
No problem.
See you.
No problem.
So I worked with Isaac for quite a while on and off for my sins and for his as well. And we really want to find out more about what you do, who you are, what you're doing differently.
Trying to do differently.
Trying to do differently. So from polar bears to bariatric mannequins, I wonder if you could give us a brief overview of how you ended up where you are.
Right. Yeah, okay. So I went to school like anybody else. I was really into design and technology at school, and I come from a family of makers, good makers. My father was a stonemason, so he was a traditional maker. My mother was a painter and printmaker, and they were both practicing, within their kind of spheres of making. And I had a bad finish to school, and I got offered a job to be a puppeteer at the end of school. So I was 18. I got offered a job as a gigging puppeteer with a good company, a prestigious company in that field. No one would know them if I mentioned them. And I was doing large animatronic animals. So I was doing kind of dinosaurs. Polar bear was probably my main one, and lots of different animals. But we were touring worldwide. So we were touring the Middle East. We were touring in America, in Canada, in the UK. Kind of high intensity stuff, but very technical puppets with lots of, technical movement functions. And in a way, that's kind of like a simulator is related to that, but I didn't know that at the time. So I went to university and did a degree in special effects for stage and screen. So lots of modeling and casting, sculpting, that kind of stuff. And whilst I was doing that degree, I slowly came to realize that I didn't really want to work in the film industry that much. But I knew I had to at the end of this degree because it was all I was qualified to do. And it was a really good degree. It was really fast, high-paced. A lot of incredible makers in that course who, are now working for, Warner Brothers and all of those kind of bigger, prestigious places. And I finished university and I got a job doing some films, kind of gigging around that area. Then I had a job being an ice sculptor for one season. And I was in this blast freezer, and it was freezing, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was working with me, and she got frostbite on the end of one of her toes, and that was it for us. We were like, we are leaving London, we are moving out of London, and we are going back to where I'm from. So we went back there and we started making windows and doors, custom windows and doors, really big windows and doors, through kind of my family's background of doing up houses and stuff like that as well. And we got a call from a friend who worked in the defense forces, who asked to do a crime scene investigation of a bomb of a group of people, and we made all the body parts and designed out the scene so there was a story. And then since then, basically, it's just been a slow rolling ball of kind of people asking us to do stuff. We do contracting, and we have our own products and so on and so forth. But it's just a slow rolling ball, basically, of more stuff coming in, and it was never like an intention to fall into that sphere. So we were doing simulation stuff, but at the same time we were doing film and theatre stuff. And then COVID hit, all the film and theatre stuff went away, and we kind of decided that we weren't going to take it back on, really. And simulation has now been our main focus for the past 5 years, and it's been an amazing journey. And it's not just me and my wife. Obviously, there's quite a large team behind us now.
Yeah, and about your large team, really. I think some of the developers that you employ and some of the people we have working for you are all quite unique characters. They're
definitely, I put them that way for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I wonder if you could tell us more about them, really, about
so
the team behind it all.
We live in quite a rural area in the UK, not incredibly rural, but it's out the way. It's not like a desirable place for someone who's a city dweller to live. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. It's the Forest of Dean in Gloucestershire, and we don't hire from medical simulation. We try not to hire from medical simulation for designers and developers at this point, because we want to lead down a different route. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to innovate, not just in the product design, but in the way that we manufacture and the way that we bring those products to market at an affordable rate with the highest quality of realism that we can do with the price point which is available for those products. So we hire people. So for instance, I've got an architect in my design team who didn't want to be an architect anymore. I've got a toy designer in my design team. I've got a guy who used to design skateboards for Tony Hawk's in my design team. I've got Ryan, who's here at the show at the moment. He's a 23-year-old guy who works in the cafe, but he's got a really good following for designing minifigures for Games Workshop. So I try to pick guys who have got really good anatomy skills in their sculpting sense, really good technical skills in their engineering sense, but not specifically in this field. And we try to mold them into really rounded designers, but we try to get them excited and interested in this industry, and it works. They really buy into the fact that the things they are doing are changing patient outcomes. And they're also, because they're coming from outside of this sphere, they can come with completely different ideas. They can come with completely different entries into this space, and they can look at things from a completely different angle. They can say, okay, yeah, we're trying to move blood through this space. They don't know what the other people are doing, and they come up with their own version of the idea. I obviously know what people are doing because I'm in this area, and I can kind of guide them down a different route if I want to. We can play with that, and it can be interesting where, when you're working for a bigger company, which we have done, and we do contract to bigger companies, it can be very prescriptive of how it needs to be done.
Yeah.
We want to do it this way because that's how it's always done, and that's the way it is. And I think that's stifling in creativity. There are things which need to be done a certain way, of course. Don't get me wrong. But there's always a different way to skin a cat. And we're looking at different ways to skin that cat right now.
Yeah, I mean, so from that moves us on to the next part of it, putting developers in front of customers.
Yeah.
To cut out, if you like, the Chinese whispers from the shop floor to the actual development room. How important is that for you?
Yeah, massively important. So we run a completely open door policy at our workshop. So if you're in a tiny little company, you're a student, you work for Leda, you work for anybody you want to, you are welcome to come to my workshop. We do a tour. There's sections we don't show, obviously, because they're in development sections, or they are contracted from one of our white label contractings or from someone else. But we have an open door policy. We show you around. We have patents on the stuff that we are worried about, and then the other stuff we're always willing to work with. But I think that's because we're confident in how we're pushing our innovation at the moment. But also with shows, I bring a sales guy. I come as the CEO, and I'm here to kind of like look around, talk to people, kind of be a figure in the industry. But then I also always bring at least one designer. Sometimes I bring two, sometimes I bring three. And why am I doing that? I'm doing that so my designers get direct contact with the end users. They can understand, and they can, because a design brain is different to a sales brain, and a sales brain is different to a customer's brain. The customers say they want this. The salesman believes that it should be like this. But the designer is really the person who is translating that biomechanical function, is really translating that need, that requirement, into a physical object made of plastic, silicons, and that. And that disconnect with a salesman in the middle, it doesn't work. It obviously does work to a degree, but getting these people slammed together, getting these ideas slammed together, I think from this show in particular, we've got multiple little snippets of information which are really going to improve our product, and it's going straight to the designer. The designer has the notes, he's put it into his management software, he's going to attack it when he gets back, but he's got an ownership of it as well. He's not just seeing a specification come in on a board and he's just trying to do it. He's personally interested.
Yeah, I mean, and he feels it. Kind of, this probably explains another aspect of what we're going to talk about. So, having worked with a number of companies over the years, been involved in little snippets of development, I've always found it frustrating, A, how long it takes to get a product to market, and B, the original concept and what it is sometimes looks very different from what actually gets to market.
Yeah.
Why?
Totally.
Yeah, and that. So how are you guys doing it? How are you guys doing it faster?
It's completely gone out of my head.
It's okay. So essentially, I've always been frustrated about the time it takes.
Yeah, the time it takes, and then it not coming out as you expected. There's multiple factors to why that happens and it happens with us as well. Cost is probably one of the leading factors to why it can't come out the way you really, really, really want to, because the customer won't support that cost and it won't sell and it doesn't meet the requirements. But I think the reason we're able to do stuff which is a bit more out there and a bit more different is we're leveraging 3D printing to the nth degree. We've got a print farm. We've got the largest print farm in our county now. Made up of different types of printers as well, and we're designing. We have our own proprietary software to generate parts of the design, so we're cutting out some of the legwork, which would be not being done in other companies because it's a massive investment for that. We can now generate a whole mannequin from a click of a button from a 3D scan. But the idea behind the 3D printing, really, I suppose, is it's as a small company, as a company with zero investment, self-built, no debt at current, the aim is to be able to get into the market as easy as possible. And that's what 3D printers offer us. And that's a new part of the technology. 3D printers haven't been able to do that yet. And they've just got to this point now where they're fast and they're affordable and they do a good enough quality to achieve it. And that's proven by our mannequins, which are completely 3D printed now. But it means we haven't got that barrier to entry of cost. So we're not paying for injection molds. We're not waiting for injection molds. We're not waiting for contractors. Every single component of our product is made in-house now. And we pride ourselves on that because it means that, I can do an iteration one day and the next day I can come to you and I can be like, here it is. And we've experienced this together. I bring it to you, you look at it, you go, okay, this isn't quite right. I don't like this. I go back and I come back 3 days later with an iteration, or 4 days later with an iteration, or even I can do it on site within the day, depending on the scale of the object. And then we can take it to clients and we can get that iterative reiteration. And I think that is just incredible. And I think it's something which is going to really change this industry, because it means people like me who don't have a big financial back end to myself can come into this market and be aggressive and look at a vast range of products and really get themselves onto the floor. Imagine starting out, you have no money, and your development cycle is going to be 3 years to get anything to market. It doesn't work. But now we have guys who are students coming into our workshop to look around, have chats, get advice, and they've developed products in 3 months as PhD students, and they are incredible. And it's amazing. I just think power to the people at the moment. It's going to change a lot of industries, but I think this industry specifically is going to see a really quick uptake. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff which might potentially not be good, and some stuff which is going to be amazing, and there's going to be a wash of it, but it's going to be incredible. It's going to be a really good experience, and we're already seeing that. Like from this show this year to a show 2 or 3 years ago, the amount of 3D printing stuff is up there now. Every 3 or 4 stands, there's one. It's just all of the stuff is 3D printed, and it's so cool.
Do you think the bigger companies are going to adopt it?
It's a difficult one. I don't know. I assume they will. Of course they will. If it makes financial sense. But it's hard to change. Change is hard. We all know it's hard, You've worn that hair for the last 6 years exactly the same.
I don't think it's been the same.
It's pretty much been the same. I'm not going to lie. But I don't like it. I think it looks amazing. You've got brilliant hair. But
it's grey now.
It wasn't great when we started
working with you.
Yeah, probably. I've got greys in my beard because of you as well. But you know what I mean? Change is hard to make. And it's also change is hard to make when you've invested so much down one route. So say you were a bigger company, you start with injection molding, you outsource it, and then you're like, okay, I want to make my higher percentage on my product. I'll bring the machine in-house. You've invested $1 million. That's a guesstimate in that machine. You're not just going to throw that away. You're not going to throw that away. And why would you as well? You know what I mean? So you've got to realize that innovation is going to be faster in the smaller companies in this field, and the others will adopt it. But you can go over MedVision, the Leonardo, he's got 3D printed components in it. I'm sure a lot of these parts have got 3D printed components in it because it just makes sense sometimes.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
And you're now using AI in the process as well. So
Yeah, so we're using AI to help generate full mannequins, generate the internals and the skins on the outside. And that means now we can take a 3D scan, we can put it into a computer program, our own proprietary computer program we've designed, and it will kick us out a full mannequin, a set of molds and everything. We can do a mannequin kind of from start to finish with the basic of functionalities. I'm talking very much a dummy here, which doesn't have anything on it. Yeah. That's all added after. That's tertiary addition. That's we call it third level. It does second level, so that's molds, mannequin and everything. But we're also using AI in our mannequins to have conversational topics, to collect data about what's happening within the training, to pick up when we're using sensors and so on and so forth, and eventually being reporting. But that's all kind of in development, but it's coming, and that's accessible now. I can hire a developer who is, is X amount of wage. They are paid well or whatever, but the actual, for me to buy the computer which is required to do it is £1,000. Yeah. A computer of that kind of caliber 2 years ago, you would have been up in the 20 grand. And it's this big, it's tiny.
Wow.
I can slide it into the mannequin with his battery, and the mannequin is having a full conversation. I can change the scenario by just writing a paragraph, basically describing what I want. And there you are, I've got a mannequin who has a conversation about, I don't know, his bed sores, or, he's broken his leg or something. And there's still work to be done in that sector for sure, but it's an entertaining.
But where can it take us?
Well, I think where AI is really going to be incredible is in the reporting section. So reporting in simulation is anecdotal. Yeah. It is anecdotal at the moment. Yeah. Like you gather all of your information from video, from some metrics, and you write some stuff out down, but it's not a true metric. The AI doesn't make mistakes, really. Yeah. It hears exactly what you're saying, it writes it down, and then if you give it an algorithm and the parameters for that, it kicks it back out. Yeah. And that's where I think it will really excel. And then also in empathy training, so having conversations with people about their situation. But emotion's quite a hard thing for AI to do at the moment, but with the speed that it's accelerating at, I see no barrier for it to be incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the big companies, Google, Amazon, they're all doing AI experiments at the moment. So I think there will be AI engines that are going to be out in the next few years that are going to be hugely advanced. Yeah,
and it's about bringing the scale down of them. There are security issues with AI, which I don't think are being discussed enough in this industry, about how much data it's gathering, and all of our systems are offline for that. Yeah. And I think there's a lot to be said for that isn't being talked about. And I think that will become to the parent. And also, I probably think it'll be used a lot in your VR sims and your AR sims, but we don't really work in that field, so I don't really have the expertise to speak to it.
Yeah. Okay. So, a couple more questions. What about industry regulation within?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? This industry is a wild west, and it always shocks me that there's not really much in regulation. But then the more I think about it, how can you regulate it? How could you actually regulate this industry? What, you have a specific material set you're only allowed to work for, or there's a governing body who polices that what comes in and what comes out? It's going to slow down innovation. It's going to destroy smaller companies, and I don't see a way through it at the moment to regulate it for it to work well. And I think it's kind of in a way self-regulated at the moment. We've got people like yourself who's predominantly in sales, who is vetting that product to the client. You're not going to sell something which doesn't work. Yeah. And you're not, and even if you take it on your books and you find out the clients don't like it, you're going to stop selling it because it's not good for your reputation, or so on and so forth. So there is a level of self-regulation going on, but it's really hard to say. So say we had a venipuncture arm, and it's the best venipuncture arm ever. Then one company's made it. Is that now the standard? But how does that get licensed out? And if it gets licensed out, then people are paying, and it's all just funneling money back into one spot. And it's a really hard thing to regulate unless there became a standardized spot where it was free to get these models and free to get these pieces. It's difficult to bring that regulation in as a standard. It really is. And like, for example, how even just looking at how a mannequin's assembled, or looking at how a throat meets the skin of the face, like on this floor you'll see 50 different ways to do it. Yeah. And all of them have their own advantages, all of them have their disadvantages, all of them have positives, all of them have negatives, and the majority of them work well and they perform the job. I always think of simulation as not actually replicating human life exactly. It is giving the best possible interpretation of that situation, to build muscle memory correctly, to build, kind of an uncanny valley, a feeling that you've done this before until you touch a real version. Simulation is not real life, and we have to always remember that when we're making a training device, that it needs to meet the parameters of what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve curriculum training, we're trying to achieve muscle memory, and we're trying to give people actually confidence, so when they meet this in the real life, in real form, they don't feel completely out of their depth. And we have to remember that in simulation, and I think sometimes we forget that, and we say this isn't exactly like it is in real life. Well, no, of course not, because it isn't, and it's never going to be, because it's not made of human flesh. There isn't muscle, there isn't, we can't replicate the difference between unconscious muscle and elasticity in muscle and all of these different forms within the body. But I say that, but there may be a solution in the future through 3D printing. There may be a solution in the future through incredibly advanced materials, but we don't have those available to us. But I think the material companies are picking up on that. I tell them I want a material which you've certified is like, someone's liver. I want a material which is certified to be like a lung. I want one which is like the throat. I want that. I want to know what those mixes are, and I want you to mix them for you. I don't want to be playing around with that all the time. You know what they are. You should be supplying them as a product, and they are listening. We are getting custom mixes which meet those parameters, and they're doing the work for us, which is great.
So maybe it is like the materials that you use that need to be evaluated.
The materials, but then you're getting into a game where you limit the materials. Like, I've seen some stuff on the floor this week, which I've seen my first ultrasoundable silicon. It's a proprietary mix. They're mixing it in-house. If you say you regulate them and say these are the batch of materials you can use from these suppliers to create a mannequin, that would never have come to light. That would never exist. And I think that's, without maybe it going through the regulatory thing, it slows down the innovation by 3 years. They spend a load of money and they trip and they fall on the way through. And you stop a small company from going from that to having something which is, it could be, within 6 months, the go-to product. I don't know. I'm just using it as an example. But I think that's really important.
Okay. Well, Isaac, this is the last part, okay? This is your chance for a shameless plug.
All right.
Of Reproductions. Tell us in a few words what you're up to. What people should go and see. They've got half a day to go while you're here.
They haven't got much time left.
Haven't got much time. Get over there.
Come to stand 1213. Reproductions is over there with some new prototype task trainers, a new prototype Triple C mannequin, and our new dark skin version of the R42. Reproductions is looking to do 6 new mannequins for the market this year, 20 new task trainers. We've got some OEM productions going out there. We want to be collaborating with people. If you want to come and talk to us, it doesn't matter whether you're a maker, an innovator, or a big company. We want to help you. We want to work. We want to make things better for patient outcomes. Let's do it.
Yes. Brilliant. Thanks
so much,
mate. Cheers,
it's been
mate.
good fun.
See you soon. Bye.